in the golden heart of Ikoyi, Lagos, where the air smells like money and even the streetlights look like they have private bank accounts, stood a mansion so luxurious that Google Maps almost bowed before locating it. White marble floors so polished you could see your future in them. Gold-trimmed staircases curving like royalty. Gray designer walls that whispered, "This place is expensive, behave yourself." Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen fireworks. And inside this palace lived a man who had mastered everything in life, except love. Adewale Olamide, 30 years old, dark-skinned, tall, sharp jawline that could cut boardroom arguments in half. Eyes that had terrified CEOs, bankers, and even government officials. Adewale was not just rich, he was dangerously rich. His company, Olamide Global Holdings, controlled oil logistics, real estate, shipping, tech investments, and several other industries that required accountants to breathe into paper bags while calculating profits. But for Adewale, money was not the goal. Winning was, and he was winning, aggressively. The problem with being too successful every morning, Adewale's day started the same way. At exactly 5 a.m., his alarm rang. Not a normal alarm, a classical orchestra ringtone, because according to Adewale, if I must wake up early, at least Mozart should suffer with me. He sat up in bed, stretched, then spoke to the empty room. "Good morning, Billionaire." His voice echoed in the massive bedroom. The bedroom itself was larger than some people's entire houses. White silk bedsheets, gold bedside lamps, gray velvet curtains stretching from floor to ceiling. But there was one thing missing. Another human being. No wife, no girlfriend, not even a suspicious situationship. Just Adewale and his bank alerts. Downstairs in the kitchen, Chidinma was already awake. 25 years old, caramel skin that glowed like honey under the morning lights, curly hair tied neatly into a bun, wearing her black and white maid uniform with quiet elegance. She had worked in the mansion for 5 years, and during those 5 years she had learned one thing about her boss. The man loved two things: money and work. Actually, mostly work. She placed his breakfast tray together. Oatmeal, fresh fruit, green tea. She sighed. Oga will still ignore this food and go and start chasing billions again. Just as she finished speaking, Adewale walked into the dining room, already dressed in a perfectly tailored gray suit. Chidinma blinked. "Sir, good morning," he nodded while checking his phone. "Morning." She placed the tray before him. "Breakfast is ready." He glanced at it briefly, then at his phone again, then back to his phone, then stood up. "Cancel breakfast." Chidinma folded her arms slowly. "Sir." "Yes? You have canceled breakfast 4 times this week. I'm busy." She tilted her head. "Sir, even billionaires need food." He sighed. "Chidinma, do you know what happens if I miss this meeting?" "What?" "A $3 billion deal might collapse." She nodded thoughtfully. Then she pushed the tray closer to him. "Eat banana." He blinked. "What?" "Banana. It will take only 10 seconds." "Chidinma, 10 seconds, sir." He stared at her, then at the banana, then sighed like a defeated man. He picked it up. "Fine." He peeled it dramatically. "If this meeting fails, I will blame you." "At least you will be alive to blame me." Adewale sat inside his Rolls-Royce as his driver navigated Lagos traffic. His assistant called through the car speaker. "Sir, your schedule today is very tight. Tell me something I don't know. You have 5 meetings, 2 investment calls, a government negotiation, and dinner with the Singapore investors. Perfect. And sir, yes, you have rejected 17 date requests this month." Adewale frowned. "Why are you tracking that?" "Because your mother called again," he groaned. "Please don't start. She said you should marry before she starts looking for a wife for you." "That sounds like a threat." "It is." He leaned back in his seat. "Tell my mother I will marry." "When?" "After I close the Singapore deal." "Sir, you said that last year." "And?" "You said the same thing after the Dubai deal." He paused. "That's different." "How?" "This deal is bigger." A few weeks later, during a board meeting, something unusual happened. Adewale was presenting financial projections when his vision blurred. He paused. The room spun slightly. His business partner frowned. Adewale? He blinked. I'm fine. But he wasn't. His chest felt tight, his body suddenly heavy. Later that evening, Chidinma noticed something immediately when he returned home. Sir, are you okay? I'm fine. You look tired. I'm not tired. You look pale. I'm dark-skinned, Chidinma. She crossed her arms. Even dark-skinned people can look pale. He chuckled weakly. I'm fine. But the next morning, he collapsed. 2 days later, Adewale sat inside a hospital office across from his doctor. The doctor studied the test results silently. Adewale tapped his fingers impatiently. Doctor, you've been staring at that paper like it owes you money. The doctor removed his glasses slowly. Mr. Alamide. Yes? You have cancer. The word hung in the air like thunder. Adewale stared. What stage? Advanced. His heartbeat pounded loudly. And how long do I have? The doctor hesitated, then said quietly, 6 months. Silence filled the room. The billionaire who had conquered industries suddenly felt like the poorest man alive. Adewale drove home alone that evening. A Lagos traffic noise felt distant. His mind repeated one sentence. 6 months. 6 months to live. 6 months to leave behind everything he built. When he reached his mansion, the gate opened automatically. He stepped inside his enormous bedroom. White, gold, gray, luxury everywhere. But tonight, it felt empty. He sat on the edge of his bed and laughed weakly. All these billions. He looked up at the chandelier, and I forgot to schedule living. A tear slid down his cheek. And downstairs in the mansion, Chidinma was about to walk in with his dinner tray, completely unaware that her boss had just received the worst news of his life. And that very soon, everything in that mansion would change. 3 days after Adewale returned from the hospital, the once lively mansion in Ikoyi had become strangely quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, the kind where everyone walks softly and whispers like the walls are gossiping. Adewale spent most of his time in his massive white and gold bedroom. The curtains were partly drawn, letting in thin rays of Lagos sunlight that reflected off the polished marble floors. He lay on his king-sized bed, staring at the ceiling chandelier. Once upon a time, that chandelier represented success. Now it just looked like an expensive decoration, waiting for him to die. He sighed deeply. 6 months. Even saying it aloud felt unreal. Downstairs, however, the mood was very different, because news travels faster than Wi-Fi in Nigerian families. And when the news is about a billionaire being sick? Relatives develop supernatural transportation power at exactly 10:30 a.m. A dusty SUV stopped in front of the mansion gate. Out stepped 2 men looking around like they had just entered heaven. Ayo, 50 years old, dark-skinned, loud voice, big stomach that suggested his relationship with food was very serious. Beside him was his older brother, Tunde, 60 years old, dark-skinned with streaks of gray hair that gave him the appearance of a wise village elder, although wisdom itself was still under investigation. They stared at the mansion. Ayo whistled. Ha! Tunde nodded slowly. So this boy really has money. Money? Ayo scoffed. This is not money. This is economic miracle. The gate security guard eyed them suspiciously. Yes? Ayo puffed his chest. We are family. The guard sighed internally. He had heard those 2 words before. They usually meant trouble. When they entered the living room, their mouths fell open. White leather sofas, golden center tables, gray velvet curtains that looked like they were imported directly from heaven. Ayo touched one carefully. This curtain alone can pay my children's school fees. Tunde sat on the sofa slowly. Careful, this chair might cost more than our village land. Just then, Chidinma walked in carrying a tray of water. Her caramel skin glowed softly under the chandelier light. Her curly hair was neatly tied in a bun, and her maid uniform was crisp and spotless. She greeted respectfully. Good morning, sirs. Ayo stared at her, then whispered to Tunde loudly enough for the whole room to hear. This maid is fine, oh. Tunde nodded thoughtfully. Yes, Chidinma blinked slowly. Lord, give me patience. She forced a polite smile. Oga Adewale is resting upstairs. Io waved dismissively. We know. Should I inform him you're here? No need, Tunde said. We will see him ourselves. Chidinma hesitated, but before she could protest, they had already marched upstairs like two men inspecting property they planned to inherit. Inside the bedroom, Adewale lay asleep. See bed? Tunde nodded. This bed can fit 6 people. Io scratched his head. Why one person needs this big bed? Tunde shrugged. When you are rich, even your sleep becomes expensive. Then Io leaned closer and whispered, So, how do we divide everything? Tunde cleared his throat. Well, as the eldest brother, naturally I should take the Ikoyi mansion. Io almost choked. Why? Because I am the eldest. That is not logic. It is tradition. But I am the one with more children. So I need the mansion more. Just then another relative from the village burst into the room, panting. Have you people started sharing already? Both brothers turned. Who told you to come? The village people sent greetings, the man said proudly. They said whatever sharing formula you agree, everyone must get equal share. Io shouted, Equal share? Yes. That means even those who did not greet Adewale for 10 years will collect property? Yes. Tunde nodded thoughtfully. Actually, that sounds fair. Io slapped his forehead. Fair? Their voices grew louder. I will take the mansion. I will take the Banana Island house. I will take the cars. I will run the company. You run company? The only business you run is goat trading. The argument escalated like a Lagos traffic fight, and all this time, Adewale was lying on the bed, listening. His eyes slowly opened. He coughed. Immediately, silence. The 3 men froze like statues. Adewale turned his head slowly. His voice was weak but firm. Are you people finished planning my funeral? Nobody spoke. Io forced an awkward laugh. Haha, we were just discussing family unity. Yes, Tunde added quickly. Unity. Adewale looked at them calmly. I'm still alive. Another silence. Please leave my room. They shuffled awkwardly toward the door, and as they left, not one of them asked, How are you feeling? A few minutes later, Chidinma entered quietly carrying a tray of food. She saw tears rolling down Adewale's face. Her heart tightened. She set the tray aside immediately. Sir, she gently wiped his tears. How are you feeling? He tried to speak, but his voice failed. She sat beside him softly. Don't think too much, she said gently. You will get better. He gave a weak smile. You sound very confident. Of course. How do you know? She shrugged playfully. Because I prayed this morning. And God answered already? Yes. What did he say? She smiled. He said you are stubborn, and he is not ready to deal with you in heaven yet. For the first time that day, Adewale laughed. A weak laugh, but a real one. Then she continued softly. You will be fine. You will live long. He looked at her carefully. You really believe that? Yes. You believe I will see my children? Of course. The word children echoed in his mind. He looked at her differently. 5 years she had worked in his house. 5 years of loyalty. 5 years of kindness, while his own family waited for him to die. He swallowed slowly. Chidinma. Yes, sir? There is something I want to ask you. She tilted her head. What is it? He took a deep breath, his heart raced. Will you give me a child? The room went silent. Chidinma blinked. Once, twice, then she almost dropped the spoon she was holding. Sir. Yes? Did the doctor also check your brain? Adewale burst into laughter. And for the first time since his diagnosis, hope quietly entered the room. The room went silent after Adewale asked the question. Chidinma stood frozen beside the bed, holding a spoon in midair, like someone had pressed the pause button on her life. Sir? Yes? Let me confirm what I just heard. He swallowed nervously. You asked me to... What exactly? Adewale cleared his throat. To give me a child. The spoon finally dropped into the bowl with a clink. Chidinma placed both hands on her head. Ah, She began pacing the luxurious white and gold bedroom. Jesus. She stopped and turned to him. Sir, are you sure the cancer is not affecting your thinking? Despite the heaviness of the moment, Adewale chuckled weakly. My thinking is perfectly fine. Perfectly fine? She repeated. Yes. You are asking your maid to have a baby for you. He raised a finger. Correction. What? My very trusted maid. She stared at him. That does not make it better. The billionaire's logic. Adewale sighed and sat up slowly against his pillows. Chidinma, listen to me. She folded her arms cautiously. I am listening. You know my family. She nodded immediately. Yes. What kind of people are they? She didn't hesitate. Hungry. He laughed weakly. Exactly. Sir, those ones were already sharing your property while you were sleeping. I heard everything. She shook her head. Even the one that said the village people must collect equal share. Yes. He looked very serious. I know. They both laughed quietly. Then Adewale became serious again. If I die without a child, everything I built will be destroyed. Chidinma sighed. That is true. My brothers will sell the company within 1 year. That is also true. And the mansion? They will probably turn it into hotel. He groaned. Exactly. She sat down beside the bed. So your solution is, me? Yes. Sir. Yes, I am your maid. I know. I clean your house. I know. I iron your clothes. I know. And now you want me to produce your heir? Yes. She stared at him. You are a very confident man. The maid, who was thinking too much, Chidinma, stood up and began pacing again. Her mind was spinning faster than Lagos traffic roundabout. This is not small decision, oh. Adewale watched her nervously. I know. You are billionaire. Yes. If I agree, people will say I trapped you. I don't care. They will say the maid used juju. He laughed. If you know juju that powerful, please teach me. She gave him a small playful glare. Sir, this is serious. I know. She stopped pacing, then asked quietly, Why me? Adewale looked at her, not as a boss, not as a billionaire, but as a man who finally realized what truly mattered. Because you are the only person in this house who cares if I live or die. The words hit her deeply. She looked down. You wiped my tears, he continued softly. You encouraged me. You believe I will survive. He sighed. My own family came here to share my cars. She couldn't argue with that. The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Then Chidinma sighed. Adewale blinked. Okay? Yes. Wait, that was too fast. She rolled her eyes. You want me to change my mind? No. Then accept it. He stared at her in disbelief. You mean you will do it? Yes. But under one condition. His heart skipped. Anything. If you survive this sickness, yes, you must take responsibility for the child. He looked offended. Chidinma. What? Of course I will. She nodded. Good. Then she added casually, and if you misbehave, I will still beat you. Adewale burst into laughter. You want to beat a billionaire? Yes. With broom. I believe you. The next day, Adewale called his doctor. Doctor, I need IVF arranged. The doctor blinked in confusion. You are battling cancer. Yes. And you want to start a family now? Yes. The doctor sighed. Only you, Mr. Olamide. Within days, the medical arrangements were in place. Samples were collected. Everything moved quickly. Meanwhile, Adewale's condition remained fragile. Some days he was strong. Other days he barely left his bed. But something in the house had changed. There was now hope. One afternoon, Adewale was sitting upright for the first time in days when Chidinma walked in smiling. Sir. Yes? Get ready. For what? We are going out. He stared at her. Out where? Somewhere nice. Doctor said I should rest. Doctor did not say you should become furniture. He laughed. You are bossy. Yes. Fine. That evening they arrived at a quiet beach outside Lagos. The sun was setting. Orange light danced across the waves. A gentle breeze played with Chidinma's curly hair. Adewale breathed deeply. I haven't done this in years. Done what? Nothing. She smiled. You see, it's not so bad. They sat together watching the ocean. Sir, she said playfully. Yes, when you get better, you must learn to relax. I will try. You must also marry. He raised an eyebrow. Are you advertising for someone? She laughed. Maybe. He looked at her carefully. Maybe I already found someone. She quickly looked away. Focus on healing first. Laughter returns. That night when they returned to the mansion, something felt different. The once quiet house now felt warmer. Chidinma took him to the garden sometimes. Other days they watched movies. One evening she brought him suya. He coughed after eating. She panicked. I knew it. What? You want to die because of suya? If suya kills me, I will die happy. She smacked his arm lightly. Don't say that. He laughed again. And slowly, without either of them realizing it, their hearts were getting closer, much closer. What started as a desperate request for an heir was quietly turning into something neither of them planned. Love. And neither of them knew yet that very soon that love would change everything. Life inside Adewale Olamide's mansion had changed in a way nobody expected. Before the illness, the house had always been quiet. Not peaceful quiet, more like corporate quiet. The kind where every room felt like a boardroom and every footstep sounded like a business decision. But now, laughter had started living there. And surprisingly, the person responsible for that miracle was not a doctor. It was the maid, Chidinma, 25 years old, caramel skin glowing softly against the mansion's white and gold luxury decor. Her curly hair tied neatly in a bun as usual, but these days she often loosened a few curls that bounced around her face when she laughed. And she laughed a lot. Mostly because Adewale was slowly discovering something shocking. He was actually funny. The garden therapy. One afternoon Chidinma pushed Adewale's wheelchair into the mansion garden. Yes, keep pushing, he joked. This is the VIP service I deserve. She rolled her eyes. You are lucky I am pushing you. If it was your brothers, they would push you into the swimming pool. He laughed. That is true. She parked the wheelchair beside a fountain. Fresh air therapy, she announced proudly. What kind of therapy is that? My own therapy. Is it approved by doctors? No. Then it is dangerous. She folded her arms. Sir? Yes? Have you noticed something? You laugh more now. He paused. It was true. I guess you are annoying enough to keep me alive. She pretended to be offended. Excuse me? Yes. I am a very peaceful person. You threatened to beat me with broom 2 days ago. That was motivation. The billionaire becomes a patient. Later that evening, inside his luxurious white and gold bedroom, Adewale was trying to eat dinner. Trying. Chidinma stood beside him like a strict schoolteacher. Finish the soup. I'm full. You ate 2 spoons. That is enough. No. Chidinma. Yes? I own this house. She nodded calmly. Correct. So technically I am your boss. Yes, then why are you forcing me to eat? She leaned closer. Because if you die after I agreed to give you a child, I will be very angry. He burst out laughing. You are threatening a sick man. Yes, with soup. Meanwhile downstairs, trouble had returned. Ayo and Tunde had refused to go back to the village. They had quietly decided to stay in Lagos. Why? Simple. They wanted to monitor the dying billionaire. Inside the guest living room, Ayo whispered to Tunde. This boy is not looking like someone that will die soon. Tunde frowned. That maid is feeding him too much. Yes, and she's always laughing with him. That is suspicious. Ayo nodded dramatically. She might be planning something. What? I don't know yet, but I don't trust happiness. At that exact moment they saw Chidinma walking past. Ayo whispered loudly. That girl is too comfortable here. Tunde nodded. She even walks like madam. Chidinma heard them. She stopped slowly, turned around, and smiled sweetly. Good evening, sirs. Ayo forced a smile. Yes, good evening. Hope you are enjoying your stay? Yes. That is good, she said calmly, because the gate is always open if you want to go home. Tunde almost choked. Ayo whispered angrily. You see? Yes, Tunde muttered. She's already chasing us. Later that night, Lagos sparkled under the stars. Adewale stood on his bedroom balcony for the first time in weeks. Chidinma stood beside him. City lights glittered in the distance. Beautiful, he murmured. Yes, she said softly. He looked at her. Thank you. For what? For not abandoning me. She shrugged. I work here. That is not the reason. She stayed quiet. The breeze played gently with the curls near her face. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, Adewale sighed. You know something funny? What? I spent my whole life chasing money. She smiled. And you caught plenty. Yes. But I never had time for life. Well, now you have time. He looked at her carefully. You are the reason I am still smiling. Her cheeks warmed slightly. Sir, yes, you should not say things like that. Why? Because I might start believing you. I hope you do. The air between them suddenly felt different, warmer, closer. Back inside his bedroom, Chidinma placed a bowl of fruit on the table. Doctor said vitamins. Adewale groaned. More food? Yes. He picked up a slice of apple. While chewing, he asked casually, Chidinma, yes? If we have a child, what kind of father do you think I will be? She smiled slowly. A funny one. He raised an eyebrow. Funny? Yes. You will probably negotiate bedtime like a business deal. He laughed. That is possible. She suddenly made a silly face. Daddy, I want ice cream. He played along immediately. No. Why? Budget cuts. She burst out laughing. You see, I will be a disciplined father. Poor child. The moment everything changed. As the laughter slowly faded, something quiet settled in the room. They were standing closer than usual. The playful energy had softened. Adewale looked at her. Really looked. The gentle curve of her smile, the warmth in her eyes, the way she cared for him without expecting anything. His heart beat faster. Chidinma, yes, I think something is happening. She tilted her head. What? I think. He hesitated. I'm falling in love with you. Her breath caught. For a moment she forgot how to speak. Finally she whispered, You are sick. Yes. And emotional. Yes. And maybe confused. Maybe. She stared at him quietly, then smiled softly. Good. He blinked. Good? Yes. Why? Because. She stepped a little closer. I think I'm falling in love with you too. For a moment neither of them moved. Then slowly, he leaned forward and kissed her. Soft, gentle, real, not as a billionaire, not as a maid, just two people who had found something beautiful in the middle of fear. And somewhere downstairs, Io suddenly sneezed loudly. He looked around suspiciously. I feel like something bad for us just happened. Tunde nodded slowly. Yes, I also feel it. Upstairs, love had just entered the mansion, and very soon, it would create a miracle nobody expected. One calm evening, Lagos glittered under a sky full of quiet stars. Adewale and Chidinma stood on the balcony outside his luxurious white and gold bedroom. The breeze carried the smell of flowers from the garden. Chidinma leaned slightly on the balcony rail. You look stronger today, she said. Adewale stretched his arms. I feel stronger. That means my garden therapy is working. Yes, he nodded seriously. Dr. Chidinma, she laughed. I should start charging consultation fees. You already do. How? You force me to eat like 5 times a day. That is survival. They both laughed. Then the laughter slowly faded. The moment became quiet, peaceful. Adewale looked at her differently again, not as his maid, not as the woman who agreed to help him, but as the woman who had slowly filled his lonely life with warmth. He gently held her hand. Chidinma, yes? If I had met you earlier. She looked up at him. Maybe my life would have been very different. She smiled softly. Well, you met me now, and in that quiet moment, they kissed again. This time the kiss was deeper, more certain. That night they shared a tender intimacy, not out of desperation, but out of growing love and trust. Neither of them spoke about it afterward, but both of them knew something in their lives had changed forever. A few weeks later, early one morning, Chidinma stood in the bathroom, staring at a small pregnancy test. Her eyes widened. She blinked, then blinked again. Ah, she sat down slowly. No, wait. She looked again. 2 lines, 2 clear lines. She covered her mouth. Oh my God. Later that afternoon, Adewale was sitting in the living room, trying to read a business report. Trying. Because Chidinma had been pacing around the room like someone preparing for a political speech. He finally lowered the paper. Chidinma, yes? Why are you walking like you were calculating Nigeria's national budget? She stopped. I need to tell you something. He straightened. Is it bad? No. Is it very bad? No. Then say it. She took a deep breath. I'm pregnant. Silence. Adewale blinked. Once. Twice. Then he jumped up so fast the report papers flew everywhere. What? She laughed nervously. You heard me. But, the IVF procedure. I know. It's not finished yet. I know. So how? He suddenly paused, then slowly smiled. Oh. She folded her arms. Yes. Oh. He burst into laughter. He ran forward and hugged her tightly. I'm going to be a father. Yes. I'm going to be a father. Yes, please stop shouting before the neighbors think I kidnapped you. He laughed even harder. For the first time since the cancer diagnosis, Adewale Olamide looked completely alive. A few days later, Adewale visited the hospital for another examination. The doctor studied the results, then studied them again, then removed his glasses, then cleaned them. Then looked again. Adewale frowned. Doctor, yes? Why are you looking at the test results like they insulted you? The doctor shook his head slowly. This is impossible. Adewale's heart jumped. What? The doctor looked up. Your cancer, yes, is gone. Silence. What? The doctor nodded. The tumors have disappeared. Your body responded extremely well to treatment. Adewale stared. So you are healthy. Adewale sat there stunned. The doctor smiled. I think love, hope, and faith can sometimes perform miracles medicine cannot explain. Adewale laughed. Doctor, if you meet the woman responsible, you will understand. Meanwhile, the greedy brothers back at the mansion, Ayo and Tunde were having a serious meeting. Very serious. Ayo looked worried. This boy is not dying. Tunde frowned. Yes, he even looks stronger. Yes, and now we heard the maid is pregnant. Ayo gasped. That means there will be an heir. Tunde rubbed his forehead. This is very bad for our inheritance plan. Ayo suddenly whispered dramatically. Maybe we should start praying. Tunde nodded. Yes. For what? That the baby looks like him. Why? Because if it looks like the maid alone, people will start asking questions. They both sighed deeply. Their dream of inheriting the empire was slowly collapsing. Months later, the mansion was filled with excitement. Chidinma went into labor. The hospital corridor looked like a movie scene. Adewale was pacing nervously. Why is this taking so long? The nurse smiled. Sir, babies are not business contracts. I know. Finally, a loud baby cry echoed through the room. The doctor walked out smiling. Congratulations. Adewale froze. You have a healthy baby boy. He almost collapsed from happiness. When Adewale finally held his son in his arms, tears filled his eyes. The tiny baby blinked slowly. Adewale whispered softly, Hello, my son. Chidinma smiled from the hospital bed. You see? Yes. You didn't die. No, you got your heir. Yes, and you got a wife too. Adewale laughed. That part was the real miracle. The jealous relatives. When the news reached the village, Ayo nearly fainted. What? Tunde sighed deeply. The boy survived, and now he has a son. Yes. Ayo shook his head. Our inheritance plan has failed. Tunde stood up. Well, what? At least the child is family. Ayo thought about it, then smiled slowly. Yes, maybe we should start visiting more often. Tunde nodded wisely. Yes, before the boy grows up and refuses to greet us. Back at the mansion in Ikoyi, life had transformed completely. Laughter filled the once quiet halls. A tiny baby now slept peacefully in a beautiful nursery. Adewale's empire continued to grow. But now, when people asked him his greatest achievement, he always smiled and said, Not the company, not the money, my family. And every night, when he stood on that balcony under the stars, he remembered the moment his life almost ended. And how love had quietly turned the ending into a brand new beginning. hope can change the direction of life. Even when Adewale was told he had only 6 months to live, he found new purpose, love, and hope. Instead of giving up, he embraced life again. This teaches that no matter how difficult a situation seems, hope and faith can open doors to unexpected miracles. While Adewale's brothers and relatives were already planning how to divide his wealth, it was Chidinma, someone who was not related to him by blood, who stood by him with loyalty and compassion. The story reminds us that true family is sometimes defined by love and loyalty, not just blood. Ayo, Tunde, and the other relatives were so focused on inheritance that they forgot basic compassion. Their greed prevented them from caring about Adewale's life and well-being. The story warns that excessive greed can destroy relationships and make people lose their humanity. Sometimes what the human heart needs most is not only treatment, but love, hope, and encouragement. Chidinma's care, optimism, and emotional support gave Adewale the strength to keep fighting his illness. This shows that kindness and genuine love can bring healing in ways science alone cannot always explain. True wealth is not money or property. It is love, loyalty, family, and the people who stand by you when life becomes difficult. If this story really touches your heart, please like and comment. Let us know what you have learned from this story. Subscribe for more of Billionaire's romance love story.